Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. It's me, John, and Shannon. I'm joined by Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
I am fantastic, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Another good game. Another competitive game. Obviously, New Zealand levelled the series. But, good to see that the West Indies took it to the wire and took it deep. What did you make of it?
I'll tell you what. All things being equal, the West Indies actually played better today, from my vantage point, than they did in the first game. Right. So it just goes to show how funny a game cricket is, that they played better, but lost. Obviously, the batting didn't click holistically, but T20 is that by nature. It's not often that your batting does click, but you have guys that can do special things and pull you back into a game.
Yeah.
And I think that more so than anything, the West Indies would have lost that game than New Zealand winning that game. West Indies needing 6 from the last 3 balls.
Yeah.
Rovman Powell will be thinking he probably just went a bit across that ball instead of going straight.
Yeah.
And obviously the straighter boundary is the shorter boundary.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, he'd be thinking he should have attacked the shorter boundary by all means necessary as opposed to losing his shape. And if he did that, they'd have won with two balls to spare.
Yeah.
So I think that the West Indies should look at this series now as definitely a series that they could win. It's been a very long time that the West Indies have been competitive in New Zealand. We've seen, unfortunately for you, what's just happened to England in New Zealand. So, it's a difficult place to go and play.
Yeah.
But the West Indies are showing that, and kudos to the management team. I know we bash them. Everyone bashes them when they lose, etc. But that's the nature of sports. Everyone wants their team to win, so 100%. You will bash them. But they seem to have figured something out, like where it's clicking currently.
Yes.
And it looks good holistically. Obviously, like you can pinpoint certain bits and pieces, which we will do, and we'll delve into finer points. But holistically, I think that the West Indies would be thinking that they should be 2-0 up and looking to wrap up the series in the next match. So they'll be happy going into the next match.
Well, that's it. And you look at the grand scheme of things, obviously, when we previewed the series across all 3 formats, we said about picking up, a win in each of the formats would be classed as okay, as from a success. But you look at the position they're in now, like you mentioned there, arguably the better team again today. You're in a great position now to go and win this series. You take those small margins, and obviously one of the points you mentioned was from a catching perspective, but the small catch, I don't know, the small margins, and that's it. You mentioned there about the decision from Rovman Powell not to go straight. It's just that slight indecision, and it does cost you the game. It's international cricket. It's the highest format. These small, you need them to go, and you need them to be switched on. You need to make sure that you follow it. You do it as high. You can't have any lapses in these sort of situations, can you?
And I think it's hard to be critical of Rovman because of the innings he played.
Superb.
And as I've been saying, he's been, obviously the spotlight is on Shai because he literally just turns up and does a job every single time.
Yeah.
And I think it's taken for granted because he's just so consistent now. He's a world-class player.
Yes.
Especially in the white ball form of the game.
Yeah.
That you just expect him to do what he does. So you start looking at the other guys. But what Rovman has been doing is going under the radar. And I think that he's been exceptional this year. Yeah. And kudos to him for his consistency and his impact across conditions, because you look at the way he played in Ireland, the way he played in the UK, the way he's played in Bangladesh, where he's played here. He's been extremely consistent, and you have to sort of put your hands up and commend that type of performance. From the fielding aspect of things, the fielding has been obviously quite sloppy for some time now. It's a few series now where it's been an accumulation of misfields, drop catches, that sort of stuff. So complacency is leaking into that sort of things. And the 2 things that you can sort of control is your fitness and your fielding, because those things are down to you and your personal efforts. Yeah. So I think that, guys have to be a lot more switched on. It's not anything where someone now needs to go and catch 1,000 more balls or field 1,000 more balls. that's not going to make a difference because you want to tell me that you haven't fielded enough balls in your entire life until this point in time? No, that's not the case. It's just guys need to switch on.
Concentrate.
And everyone on the field needs to keep reminding everyone else on the field.
Yeah.
We're in this together. We got 20 overs out here.
Yeah.
Let's stay as focused, as locked in as we possibly can. Obviously, guys will drop catches and miss field balls. That's the nature of the game. But to the extent at which it's happening now is a bit much.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And the point you made about Rovman Powell, I just want to add the fact that in walks of life and in sport in particular, when a player loses the captaincy like he did, it can have an effect on you mentally, and it can probably have an effect on you how you feel within that side. You know, he might have had doubts whether he actually is going to be in the side. Is he taking the captaincy? Where does it leave my future? But since he's lost the captaincy, he, like you said, he's really has sort of, you know, proved a point and improved how valuable he is to the side. And that is a massive kudos to him, like you said.
100%.
Definitely. And then from obviously, one of the points I wanted to mention from my perspective was, how did you think, I know one of the key things is obviously Santner's wickets and Ishodi's wickets. How would you go about moving forward against the Bafokeng batting unit facing the spin?
Well, in New Zealand, the last thing you want to get yelled is the spin. Alec Athenes again start sweeping.
Yeah.
I think that the management staff are going to have to fine him every time he gets on the street. I'm not even joking.
Is that a thing, that, by the way? Is that a thing?
It can be. Anything can be a thing once you make it a thing, you know? But like, something needs to happen, because when he stands and hits the ball in front of him, especially having that stat and understanding that one of your top 4 batters needs to set a platform for you every single time.
Yeah.
You know, you get in, you get that start. Take that pressure away from Shai. You've already been playing well.
Yeah.
You've already gotten a good start. Keep hitting the ball in front of you, looking at your safer boundary options.
Yeah.
If he even went for a scoop off of a seamer, but like, don't get out to the spin. In New Zealand, you know, that's the last thing you need for a set batter to be doing. Especially at that time of the game. You know, it was completely unnecessary. So, you know, we just want to see him continue to hit the ball up in front of him, because when he does that, he looks a completely different player.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And then from the bowling perspective, obviously, I know following the first T20, you mentioned about the use of Matthew Forde. As you feel, obviously, with his, you know, his bowling figures were, you know, superb today. Are you happy with how he was used?
100%. That's what we asked for. Obviously, we asked for Matthew Forde, Jason Holder, and Jaden Seales to be sort of mixed and matched in the power play, and that's exactly what we got. We got Matthew Forde bowling his 4 up front, which is again what we asked for, because based on his skill set under conditions, that's the best utilization of him. Jaden Seales, I'm not too worried about his figures, obviously, an off day, but that can happen given the nature of bowler he is and those conditions. You know, I think that he sort of maybe slightly will look back on it, and if he's been ultra critical of himself, probably went back to bowling a bit too full.
I thought.
But obviously, in a small ground, small straight boundaries, these things are likely to happen, and still the West Indies only lost by a handful of runs. You know, so you scratch that from your memory as quickly as you possibly can, and you move on to the next game. I think that's more so an anomaly than anything. I think that he'll bounce back well. I think that the bowling unit as a whole are performing well given the conditions. And I mean, you look at those conditions and the score, 206, 207, whatever it was, wasn't an unachievable target. It was sort of par for the course. You know, the West Indies were in it right up until the very last ball. So just one, I guess, bad spell. Obviously, Akeal Hosein, again, only bowling 1 over. I think what I like is that the West Indies were able to be competitive with Akeal and Shai not being the leading performers, you know, and probably will count themselves unlucky to have not won the game, given that the number 2 bowler in the world and probably one of the top 10 batters in the world have not had an impact on the game. So It's holistically good signs for the West Indies. I expect Akeal to come in to play more as they venture out to bigger grounds now,
Yeah.
regardless of New Zealand having 5 or 6 left-handers in their 11. I think that he can still play a role. Left-arm spinners bowling to left-hand batters. I do think that he still has an attacking option in terms of getting these guys out. So
Yeah.
expect him to be utilised through the middle overs some more now that we're going out onto bigger fields.
Yeah, no, I think that the point that you made there in terms of West Indies being so competitive without Shai and Akeal saying, performing to the highest that they did, it shows again that people are taking that responsibility and taking that ownership of the roles and understanding, which obviously leads on to the point that you made in terms of the contributions from Romario Shepherd and Matthew Forde, and how that competition for that place is heating up nicely.
100%. Obviously, going into the World Cup in Asia, you don't expect both of them plus Jason Holder to be in the team when you look at Alzari Joseph and Shamar Joseph outside of this playing 11.
Yeah.
Matthew Forde has looked really good from since he's come back. We were worried about him not having as much match preparation as we possibly thought he may have needed.
Yeah.
But he's dispelled that notion, put that to bed, and the first 2 games he's played, especially his opening burst in the first game, and then his spell here, and backed up by his batting. And his fielding, because he's taken quite a few catches throughout the series thus far. He doesn't look as though he's short of any cricketers at all. So you have to give, again, props to the West Indies backroom staff for making sure that he was prepared, whatever work he'd have been doing in Barbados or in Antigua before coming on tour. He looks as though he's right up to par, right up to speed, and he's hit the ground running. Romario Shepherd has had a very good last few games as well.
Yeah.
He also made a very vital and valuable contribution in this game with the bat. So he's starting to put things together again for himself holistically as an all-rounder. So it's heating up. It's looking good. And that's what you want from a West Indian standpoint. You want to see guys competing at a high level for these positions, because at the end of the day, everyone can't travel. And so if it means that you push a guy to be world class because your performances are pushing him there, that's ultimately what the team wants and what will benefit the team.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you talk about that competition for places and you talk about making that role your own, I still think that in this side there is, one of the Romario Shepherd or Matthew Forde can nail in a place by, if they was to really focus on nailing down this death bowling perspective. I know that we previously spoke about in other episodes gone by about Shamar Springer having, performing, doing that role. There is definitely still that role available to somebody to be that the finisher from a pace bowling perspective.
Again, as I just alluded to, remember Alzari and Shamar are out of this team.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But one of them could also put the hand up and say,
you're going to have those 2 guys. Alzari for sure does it. You're going to have Jason doing it. You've got Shepherd as an option now in the team. Yeah. So you've got guys. Shamar Springer. It's not Shamar Springer. Sorry, Shamar Joseph. I've never really seen him do that much of it. Obviously, he's still new to cricket and international cricket. Yeah. But you've got options. What you're looking for is to extend the pool, and that's where Shamar Springer comes in. And I do think he will have an opportunity at some point throughout this series, and it'll be good to see how he goes if he is thrusted into that position.
And then the final point that you made was obviously about the West Indies backing their ability to win the toss and bat first, and seeing as that's how they've won the majority of the recent games. Yeah,
I mean, you look at the last series that they played, you look at the first game of this series, majority of their wins have come from batting first. Obviously, today won the toss and elected to field again. And neither here nor there when you look at the final end result. But, I do think that they should bat themselves a lot more than it seems like they do to set a total.
Yeah.
To me, from an outsider's standpoint, it looks as though the bowlers are a lot more experienced under pressure as opposed to the batters, in terms of the batters having to be the ones doing the chasing as opposed to the bowlers doing the defending.
Yeah.
So I'd look to switch things up in that sense. I know a lot of it now is about chasing. Things get better in the back half. Stats and the ground says this team wins X amount of games batting second as opposed to team batting first. But there's nothing like scoreboard pressure in cricket, especially if you don't get off to a good start. The opposition gets early wickets, then that rate goes from 8 to 10 to 12 to 15. You know, so I do think that the West Indies could, especially leading into the World Cup, look to change things a bit and test yourself.
Test yourself, yeah, I was going to say
that. Doing the other thing, because you would pretty much know how you go chasing now. Let's try and test ourselves batting first as much as we possibly can. Posting a total and see how we defend, so we know going into a World Cup again, this is clearly what we want to do. If we had the choice. I'm completely with you on that, and you know, it's good to. I've really enjoyed going through these last two games with you, because there has been some real positive performances and good, some really good cricket as well. Obviously, off the back of Bangladesh, where it was testing, really, wasn't it? You know, with the conditions, and this has been quite a affluent games of cricket. It's been it's been high octane sort of stuff, really, which has been good, and a high. It's been good. Yeah, it's been good. I know we touched on it about this player rotation aspect and yesterday, and obviously going into the series of how they're going to manage it. I know obviously the Brandon King one that you mentioned is a point in the message to me earlier. Do you still want to see Amir Jango come in and take the gloves? Yeah, they're going to have to rotate players. It's been a long year. Yeah. It's been a very long year. And there's not much rest between the end of this series and the start of the calendar next year for West Indies against South Africa, and then going into the T20 World Cup. So naturally, you're going to have to rest players, because as nice as it would be to win this T20 series, any points that the West Indies can get from the 50-over series will be far more valuable to them going forward than this T20 series, because they've already qualified for the T20 World Cup. So winning the series would be great. Much valued by all Caribbean people, all West Indian fans and West Indian diaspora and fans around the world. But the 50-over win, given the position that England are in, just in touching distance, would be way more important to the West Indies team. So I would be more so geared towards that.
Yeah, definitely got to have an eye on the ODI series. But, really, really good the first two games, really good to see. Plenty of talking points. But as I finish, as always, please do keep liking, keep subscribing, and answering and getting to some questions for Kieran. I'll get back to you. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us for another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. Thank you.